I never expected a wrong number could lead to a billionaire's promise to protect my future. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The moment my heart raced, feeling the echo of panic as I clutched the hot phone against my ear. "Who is this?" I asked, my voice trembling, barely above a whisper. "You've got the wrong number," the man's voice replied, deep and smooth, almost serene in its calmness. But even as he said that, there was something strikingly different about him, an air of mystery wrapped in wealth. I could practically see him through the phone, a shadow of a man with sharp features and a world behind those low, gravelly tones. It drew me in, against all common sense. I shut my eyes, the imagery crashing into me, a sleek skyline, glittering lights, and a life I'd never known. "Wait, don't hang up," I blurted out. I felt desperate for connection, as if this brief moment could somehow fill the gaping hole in my life. I'm sorry, I still need to talk." I was caught in a storm of emotions, fear and hope battling inside me. His laughter, warm but slightly guarded, filled my ear. "You seem like someone who could use a lifeline," he said, the words sliding like silk. My heart thudded harder. What was I doing? But something in me, fueled by the wreckage of my day-to-day life, pushed me to steal a few more seconds with this stranger. My rent was due, my bills piled up like dark clouds overhead, and hope seemed like a distant star. Turns out, he wasn't just any stranger. The deep mystery surrounding him ignited questions, and one in particular burned brightly. What made a billionaire pick up the phone for a random wrong number? As he spoke of fortunes and futures, every word burst with intensity. His life, filled with lavish parties, extravagant cars, and an aura of power, drew a stark contrast to my struggle. "Sometimes, unexpected opportunities come from chaos," he said, low and inviting. My eyes widened. His words clawed at my insides, awakening something I'd long buried beneath the weight of daily disappointment. Could I trust him? Could I dive into this unknown? The world outside melted away, leaving just the two of us and a fragile thread of connection that felt both bold and terrifying. Then, just as swiftly as had captivated me, he dropped a bomb. "I can protect your future, but it comes at a cost." My stomach twisted. What was he asking for? I could almost hear the drum thud of my heart, chaos swirling after his declaration. I knew nothing about this man. Still, the shadow of possibility festered inside, shimmering in the darkness. The air was thick with suspense. I wanted to scream or cry, but I could only whisper, "What cost?" Silence reigned for a moment, stretching infinitely, and his answer felt like a breath of smoke. Something deep inside told me that whatever was coming next would alter everything. In that silent pause, my chest tightened with anticipation and dread. Would I risk it all? Or would I let fear cripple my chance for change? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The cool air of the evening reminded me that the world still moved outside, oblivious to the turmoil brewing in my heart. I clutched the phone tighter, wishing desperately that the warmth of the stranger's voice could fill the chill creeping up my spine. "What cost?" I repeated, this time with a tremor of defiance. My instincts screamed to retreat, to hang up and flee from the unsettling intimacy of his presence. Yet, what awaited me beyond that threshold? I was running out of options, trapped within the icy walls of my financial despair. His voice dripped with an enigmatic promise as he responded, "Sometimes, the cost is merely trust." A part of me wanted to laugh, mock the absurdity of the situation. Trust a billionaire stranger? Who was he? A mere whisper of intuition reminded me that nothing comes without a price. Trust? I scoffed, even as part of me was willing to listen, to explore the intricacies of this ridiculous offer. "I don't know anything about you." "I know everything about you," he countered, surprising me. I know your struggles. I know you're drowning. There was a stillness in his tone, a raw honesty that hung heavy in the air. For a beat, it felt as though he had reached into my soul and pulled out every hidden fear. I had never let anyone see the fragments of me laid bare, yet this stranger could see right through. I swallowed hard, my throat dry. Who are you? A friend, he said softly. A potential ally in your fight against the currents. In that moment, I wanted to break free of every chain that had held me captive. My heart raced anew, torn between skepticism and an inexplicable desire to lean into this stranger's intriguing offer. Was this the lifeline I ached for, or just another mirage, shimmering away from my grasp? But as I wrestled with the decision, the phone buzzed again, the caller ID flashing an unknown number that sent a chill down my spine. My heart fluttered nervously. It wasn't often I received calls like this, especially with so little time left before my rent was due. My mind frayed, edging dangerously close to panic as I realized that answering could lead to either hope or more despair. Take your time, he voiced soothingly, sensing the whirlwind of my internal battle. But before you decide, remember, I can help you escape the chaos. His words lingered like incense in the air, sweet yet smoky. I glanced out the window at the city lights, each one marking a life so different from mine, a life filled with choices and opportunities. Yet there I stood, shackled by fears and impending bills, wondering if I could even dare to untangle myself from the mess I'd woven around me. There was a flicker of determination. "I'm listening," I claimed quietly, my heart pounding like a drum. "Tell me what I need to do." But before he could respond, the unknown number rang in my pocket again, this time more insistent. Frustrated, I pressed the answer button, preparing to silence the distraction, but my breath hitched as I heard the trembling voice on the other end. "Please, you need to come home. It's urgent. It's about Mom." Panic crashed over me, a tidal wave of dread. The world I had slowly begun to open up to vanished in an instant, replaced with an urgency to protect the very foundation of my life. I turned back to the phone, my earlier defiance draining away like sand through my fingers. "Two have to go," I whispered, my heart twisted in knots. "Is everything all right?" His voice was concerned now, a blend of authority and empathy. "I'll call you back." Dread churned in my gut as I ended the call, the gravity of my mother's words heavy and unyielding. She'd always been my rock, and to hear her in distress felt like an anchor pulling me down. I grabbed my coat fiercely, determination bubbling beneath my fear. In that silver of time, I lost the lifeline that had tantalized me with the promise of hope. The world outside beckoned me, but it felt like a chasm widened by the weight of uncertainty. Would I ever return to that moment of possibility? Or would the looming darkness of my reality drown it all away? I took a deep breath, strength blooming amidst my scattered emotional state, and headed for the door, my heart pounding fiercely with both dread and courageous resolve. I was stepping into a storm, ready or not. But a flicker of doubt lingered in the back of my mind, echoing to me that the billionaire's offer of protection remained ever present, taunting me with the bitter taste of what could have been. Little did I know, this detour would lead me back to a surprising confrontation that would unravel my very understanding of trust, forcing me to question everything I believed about loyalty and sacrifice and the lengths one would take to protect those they love. The chaos of the world outside enveloped me as I rushed through the streets, the flickering neon lights reflecting the tumult inside my heart. Each step felt heavy, as if paved with the weight of what awaited me at home. My mother's voice, fragile and urgent, echoed in my mind like a specter, urging me forward. As I darted through the crowd, the city seemed to blur around me, a whirlpool spinning with laughter, chatter, and the sounds of lives untouched by sorrow. I felt like an island in a vast ocean, trapped by turbulence and isolation. Just yesterday, I had stood on the precipice of hope, ready to reach out for a lifeline that might pull me from the depths of despair. But now, here I was, teetering on the edge of another storm. The possibility of losing my mother loomed like thunderclouds in the distance. I quickened my pace, desperate to reach home where safety would retreat from the clutches of uncertainty. Just as I reached the building entrance, my phone vibrated once more, resonating a deep tremor of unease. My heart sank as I fished it out of my pocket, the illuminated screen reminding me of the earlier contact, the one I had meant to explore. What would he think of my sudden departure? The thought sent a spiral of regret through me, gnashing against the edges of my resolve. Swallowing hard, I pressed the button, hoping to quell the rising tide of anxiety. His voice wafted through the speaker, calm yet wrapped in concern. "Is everything all right? I felt your hesitation." "Not now," I replied, my voice clipped as I struggled to maintain composure. "I have to focus on my mom. They'll call you back when I can." "Wait," he began, but I hung up, unable to bear the weight of his words. Pushing through the door, I dashed up the stairwell, each step echoing the chaos of my thoughts. As I reached our small apartment, the door swung open before I could even knock, revealing my mother's pale, worried face. She looked as if the very light had been drained from her, casting deep shadows beneath her eyes. "Mom!" I rushed in, wrapping my arms around her, anchoring myself in the familiar scent of her lavender perfume. "I got your message." "What's wrong?" It's nothing, sweetie," she stammered, her voice trembling slightly. "I just didn't want to worry you. I thought I felt unwell, but I didn't mean to alarm you." Relief bloomed in my chest, but nearly suffocated by the thought of how fragile life could be. "You can always tell me if something's wrong." "I want to help you, please," I insisted, hoping my sincerity would reach her. Her lips turned upward slightly, though her eyes remained clouded. "I know you do, and you will. I just hate burdening you with my problems." A profound sadness washed over me. This was the woman who had given everything for me, always projecting strength, pushing her own fears aside so I could flourish. "Mom, it's not a burden if we face it together," I said, my words holding a promise as solid as granite. "You're not alone in this." We settled onto the worn couch, a familiar sanctuary. I grasped her hand, feeling all the worries of the world trickle into our shared silence. Just as I began to relax, the sharp trill of my phone pulled me from the moment. Staring at the screen, my heart raced. It was him again, the stranger who had almost become a beacon in the tumult. "I have to get this," I whispered, uncertain if fear or curiosity propelled me. "Please," she nodded, her expression cautious. "Just remember what we talked about, trust your instincts." "Yeah, I will." I stepped into the next room, breathing deep to steady myself. "Hello, a moment of vulnerability can unearth untold treasures," he said smoothly. "Have you taken the time to consider my offer?" "Right now, I can't think about that," I responded, my voice wavering slightly as memories of my mother's illness hovered just beyond reach. "My mother's not well, and I can't focus on anything else." "I understand," he replied softly. "But remember, acceptance of support can often transform your struggles into strengths. I want to help you, but success requires our own willing hearts." "Support?" I mocked bitterly, attempting to cloak my fear. "You don't even know me. How can you say that?" "All the more reason to trust me. I can be your bridge until you regain footing as you face the disputes of life. You will need support, especially for what's coming next." "What's coming next?" I demanded, bewildered. Some truths grow unbearable without preparation. "I can help you navigate what lies ahead. But that requires your commitment first." A moment of silence stretched between us, vibrating with tension. My heart raced, drowning in conflict. My mother, my future, a stranger promising safety. I felt torn as the weight of the world rested squarely on my shoulders. "What lies ahead?" I pressed, curiosity mingling with dread. "There are choices that lead us astray, and choices that bring us closer to peace. I can aid you in making the right choice," he said, his voice steady now, imbued with an air of knowing. As I mulled over what that might mean, the door creaked open and I turned to find my mother watching me, curiosity lit in her eyes. Something in her expression sparked fear. Was it knowledge? Would she feel the weight of this new potential burden? "I have to go," I said abruptly and hung up, feeling an enormous weight shift in the atmosphere. The air crackled with unanswered questions, shadows flickering with the threat of what was still to come. With my mother looking at me, her eyes sizing up my silence, apprehension settled in my heart. I could either step away from fear into an unknown future or remain in a sweltering cocoon of worry and uncertainty. Before I could reconcile the two, a soft knock at the door turned my world inside out. Open up! It's important. I exchanged a panicked glance with my mother just as the voice drifted through the wood. Was it someone from the past? I stepped back, my heart racing as the second knock echoed a little more insistently. Before the whirlwind of thoughts could coalesce, dread loomed. A choice has to be made, and it had the power to change everything. The air hung thick with the unspoken. My heart stammered as the knock echoed again, sharper this time. My mother's eyes widened, concern knitting her brow into a frown that mirrored my own turmoil. Who could be at our door? My finger hovered over the handle, trembling slightly, as if the very act of opening it would unleash an avalanche of consequences. Stay back, Mom, I whispered, unsure if my voice could project the authority I desperately sought to convey. You'll see who it is. Her nod was hesitant, filled with a protective instinct that mirrored my own growing apprehension. The walls of our home, once cocooning us from the chaos outside, now felt precarious. I strained my ears, but all that greeted me was the thumping of my pulse, a wild rhythm pulsating with dread. Taking a breath, I gripped the doorknob and pulled the door open just a crack. That was when I saw him, the unexpected visitor who sent shockwaves coursing through me. Eli, I breathed, recognizing the familiar face from the cafe I frequented. He was the guy whose laughter had dissolved my tension just a week ago over shared coffees and stilled conversations. But now, something was painfully off. His expression, usually bright, was darkened by shadows of urgency and fear. Can I come in? He asked, glancing over his shoulder, his tone hurried. It's really important. I hesitated, uncertainty gripping me like icy fingers. What's going on? He leaned closer, dropping his voice to a whisper. There are people looking for you, for your mom. I didn't know how to reach you, but I had to warn you. Alarm bells rang within me, louder than the thudding of my heart. What are you talking about? Why would anyone be looking for us? Eli swallowed hard, and I could see the fine sheen of sweat on his brow despite it being a cool evening. I can't explain everything right now, but I promise whatever's happening might affect your family, deeply. Panic welled inside me, feeling like a solid weight compressing my chest. I glanced back at my mother, still framed in the living room doorway, watching us with her worried eyes. Anxiety surged, but with it came a flicker of determination. Mom, I think we need to hear him out, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. She hesitated, glancing between Eli and me, then nodded slowly. Okay, but only for a moment. I opened the door wider. Come in quickly. Once inside, Eli shifted nervously, the tension spilling into our cramped living space. I could tell he was struggling to find the right words. I know this sounds insane, but I overheard some conversations that mentioned your name, your mom's name. Something big is coming, and I don't know what it is or why, but you need to prepare. What do you mean? I almost spat the words, frustration bubbling over. Why are you here with this news now? Why didn't you say something earlier? I was hoping it was nothing, but it kept eating at me. I've seen how close you two are, and I couldn't just let it go, Eli said, his voice containing a plea for understanding. If I were in your shoes, I'd want to know. I felt the ground tremble beneath me. A part of me wanted to shake my head and deny him, to return to the illusion that our life could remain untouched by dark clouds looming overhead. But another part, the part tethered to instinct, me mother's advice, the call I had hung up, honored me to listen. So what happens now? I asked, focusing on Eli's intent gaze. I don't know yet, but I want to help you. His eyes darted to my mother, then back to me. I know a way to put some distance between you and whoever is searching for you. My mind raced. Could I put my faith in him? Excitement and fear danced together in a precarious partnership. What do you mean? I have connections, friends who can help. It won't be easy, but you both need protection, at least until we understand what's going on. As he spoke, my reality felt like déjà vu. Here was a lifeline being offered just as I had thought I'd already found one, but the cost of connections, of trusting in something unknown, weighed heavily on my heart. Mom? I turned to her, searching for her interpretation. What do you think? Her typically resolute demeanor wavered, but she nodded, albeit hesitantly, ready to embrace whatever path unfolded. If there's danger, we have to be smart about it. Then we'll do it, I concluded, surprising myself with the conviction in my voice. But we need to know exactly what we're getting into. I can't just follow blind trust. Ellis' mouth tightened, a mixture of relief and apprehension flickering across his face. I promise. I'll do everything I can to protect you both. Meet me tomorrow at noon, at the same cafe where we met. I'll bring information. I opened my mouth to protest, the fear of what might be lurking around the corner flaring within me again. What if we can't trust you? I wouldn't be here if I didn't believe you could trust me, he replied earnestly. But I can only help if you let me. The tremor of uncertainty coursed through me as I exchanged a glance with my mother, our eyes communicating a tapestry of emotions, hope intertwined with despair. Fine. Well, meet, I said at last, the resolve in my voice settling around the room. As Eli stepped outside, the world seemed to breathe again, the air no longer stifling but edged with a fine layer of urgency. Yet just as I was about to close the door, Eli turned back to me, his expression background with newfound gravity. Just remember, trust is a fragile thing, he said quietly, the impact of his words surfacing new fears within me. Be careful who you let in. There is more to this than you could possibly imagine. With that, he turned and walked away, leaving us on the precipice of uncertainty. I felt a storm brewing on the horizon, and with it came the terrifying realization that, perhaps, trusting one stranger might lead us toward peril rather than safety. My mother reached for my hand, squeezing it tightly as we stood on the threshold. The world outside seemed to pulse with anticipation, and in the silence, I felt the tightening grip of destiny, whispering with a chilling caress just how fragile our lives were. What lay ahead was uncertain, but I felt the weight of 1,000 choices whispering through the air, and as the door closed, a new anxious question hung heavy in the silence. What had I just agreed to? The sunlight of the next day streamed through our curtains, a stark contrast to the shadows of dread that clung to me. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at my reflection in the small mirror on the wall. My face seemed even paler than the night before, a canvas painted with uncertainty and apprehension. Today felt loaded with promises, yet every promise bore the weight of risk. Are you ready? My mom's voice called from the kitchen, pulling me from my thoughts. Her usual cheeriness was clouded with an edge of worry, a reminder of the precarious situation we found ourselves in. Yeah, I replied, though doubt nutmegged my response. With every passing hour, the anticipation of our meeting with Eli twisted into knots in my stomach. We had agreed to trust him, but part of me still bristled at the thought of allowing someone into our lives, especially someone who might carry secrets of his own. As I walked down the narrow hallway, I caught a glimpse of my mother stirring a pot of soup, the comforting aroma wafting through our small home. She was trying to carry on with life as usual, but I could see the tension in her shoulders, braced beneath the weight of our shared dilemma. I wanted to reassure her, to ease her worries, but I didn't have the answers myself. Should we bring anything? I asked, though I wasn't sure what might be appropriate. Like money for coffee? No, she replied, her voice steady. Let Eli handle it. This is his offer, not ours. I nodded, swallowing back a wave of anxiety. We finished breakfast in a silence so thick it felt like a pause before a storm, waiting for the first raindrop to signal the downpour. As we left the house, the brisk air carried a hint of autumn, crisp and biting. I glanced at my mother. The lines on her face, usually softened by warmth, now seemed more pronounced as she clasped her purse tightly. Each step toward the cafe felt like treading through a minefield of potential dangers disguised as leading edges of hope. The cafe loomed ahead, a quaint little place with familiar brick walls that had housed so many conversations, laughter, and camaraderie. But today it felt daunting. Every window was a watchful eye, every passerby a potential threat. I took a deep breath, steadying myself against the rising tide of anxiety. Mom, maybe we should just turn back, I said, the words rushing out before I could stifle them. No. We're here to find out what Eli knows, she replied firmly, though I could hear a tremor in her voice. We have to trust our instincts, dear. I wanted nothing more than to believe that, but as we crossed the threshold into the cafe, my instincts screamed otherwise. The comforting chatter of coffee orders and muffled laughter felt out of place, color saturating a reality that had begun to dull in shades of gray. Eli was already seated in our usual spot, his fingers drumming nervously on the table, a half-empty cup of coffee waiting before him. His head snapped up as we approached, relief flooding his features. "Thank you for coming," he said, his voice low yet steady, as if he was trying to anchor us both. "We're here now." "What do you have?" I demanded, my voice snapping like a brittle twig, betraying my growing unease. He shifted, his brow furrowing. "Okay, I've been able to gather some information." He hesitated, as if assessing how to break the news gently. "There's a group looking for your family because of something your mother was involved in, something that dates back further than either of you realize." "What do you mean?" My heart raced, every beat sinking with a spike of fear. "What did she do?" Eli bit his lip. "I don't have all the details yet, but I know it's connected to a transaction or a deal, some kind of agreement that involves a larger entity. It involves money, power, and the potential for betrayal. My mother's grip on her purse tightened, her knuckles white. "I don't understand. I'm just a regular person. I've never been involved in anything like that. I think you may have unknowingly gotten entangled in something far beyond your understanding," Eli continued, his eyes darting between us. "It sounds crazy, but please believe me when I say it's serious." The weight of his words hung heavily in the air. My mind churned, processing the implications. My mother hadn't mentioned anything about dealings or transactions. What secrets lay buried beneath her gentle demeanor? "Why us?" I asked, voice nearly shaking. "Why would they target us?" "Because your name appears on a list," Eli said, lowering his voice even further, leaning closer. "They believe you know something, or claim a right to something that's worth their investigation. Someone might have turned your past into a living weapon against you." A shiver raced down my spine. I looked at my mom, her eyes wide with shock. What is he talking about?" Before she could dismiss it, a clattering of chairs echoed from across the cafe, disrupting our conversation. I turned just in time to see a group of well-dressed individuals, sharp and observant, entering the cafe. They moved in like a pack, scanning the room with cold precision. Something in their demeanor sent icy tendrils of dread crawling along my skin. "Mom, we need to go," I whispered urgently, my heart racing for different reasons now. But just as we stood, ready to retreat, one of the figures caught sight of us. His eyes narrowed, a predatory glimmer igniting as he beckoned the others toward our direction. "Stay close to me," Eli said, his voice a commanding cloak of authority that didn't quite mask his own discomfort. As they approached, my chest tightened, a wave of panic rolling through me. I could feel my mother's hand squeeze mine. We were caught now between the storm and whatever rain it bore. "Eli, what do we do?" I breathed, desperation punctuating my words as the ominous realization settled in. We hadn't just opened a door to the unknown, we had set ourselves directly in the path of it. Eli took a step forward, blocking our way as the strangers came to a halt before us. "Trust me," he whispered, though the conviction was thinning as the shadows deepened around us, as if fate was ushering in chaos. And just as the tension reached its boiling point, I stumbled over a piece of information that might just push us into a freeze frame of reckoning. I glanced at the leading figure, whose gaze was fixed on my mother with an unsettling intensity, something chillingly familiar lingering in the depths of his eyes. And then, the man spoke, his voice slicing through the heavy air, sending shockwaves of recognition through me. "You're her, aren't you? You're the one we've been searching for." The cafe buzzed with a strange energy, the noise melting into a distant hum as I honed in on the man's words. My heart dropped. His gaze pierced through the layers of confusion, turning anxiety into something more sinister. For a moment, it felt as if time had stopped, and I was suspended in a world where the only reality was this chilling encounter. "Who are you?" My voice trembled, slipping through my lips with a mixture of fear and defiance. The man smirked, and I felt my body instinctively recoil. "You don't need to worry, dear." He leaned closer, his breath brushing against my face, a mixture of arrogance and threat. "We just want to talk. Your mother and I have some unfinished business." "Enough!" Eli interjected, stepping protectively in front of us. This is not the place for this. You cannot intimidate them here. His faltering resolve painted a clearer picture of the threat we faced. My mother's grip on my arm tightened further, her face paler than I had ever seen it, masking the fierce spirit I knew she had buried deep inside. What do you mean, unfinished business? My mother managed, her voice quaking but laced with a shard of courage. Oh, you'll find out soon enough, the man said, eyes glinting with malice. It's time for you to reclaim what's rightfully yours. Before I could process his meaning, Eli shifted, his posture rigid as he faced the man. Back off. You don't know what you're dealing with. Yet, there was an undercurrent of fear threading through his tone, a crack in the facade of his confidence. I caught a brief flicker of a smirk on the man's lips as if he savored the turmoil before him. Oh, but I do. You see, this isn't just about them. It's about a legacy that can shake the very foundation of what you believe to be true. I glanced at my mom, her expression morphing from shock to a growing sense of realization. For years, we had lived within the unshakable comfort of the ordinary. But what if that comfort was merely a thin veil? What legacy? I found myself blurting out, drawn in by a mix of curiosity and dread. His gaze drifted back to my mother, an unsettling gleam lighting up his features. Why don't you tell her, Clara? Aren't you tired of running? Don't you dare speak to her like that, Eli growled, his muscles tense as he prepared for a confrontation. At that moment, just when I thought the tension might explode into chaos, a small hand suddenly clasped my own in unexpected comfort amidst the storm brewing around us. I turned to find a little girl standing beside me, her innocent gaze wide and unblinking as she stared at the man. Are you a bad guy? She asked, her voice clear and unwavering. The man's smirk faltered for a moment, clearly irritated by the intrusion of innocence into his menacing game. This doesn't concern you, sweetheart, he snapped, but the impact of her simplicity had triggered an unexpected wave of defiance in me. Actually, it does, I said, surprising myself with my own courage. You think you can come here and intimidate us like this? You don't know who you're messing with. Eli nodded slightly, and something flickered in his expression, just a hint of pride. Let's not escalate this, darling, the man retorted, his voice smooth once more. The clock is ticking, and you really don't want to be late for the reckoning. What reckoning? My mother's voice sliced through, though I could hear a hint of fear lacing her inquiry. The man held out a business card, its slick surface gleaming under the cafe's dim lights. If you want to understand everything, give me a call. We will be waiting. With that, he turned, his group following suit, but not before glancing over his shoulder with a promise suspended in the air. Remember, Clara. The past is always a part of you. You can run, but you can never hide. As they exited, a wave of tension dissipated, leaving behind an uncomfortable silence that pressed upon us. I felt as if the world around us could explode at any moment, the recognition of the man chillingly carved into my mind. I glanced back at the little girl, who was now looking up at me as if I was supposed to have the answers. How ironic, considering I felt like I was standing on a precipice, caught between shadow and light. Who was that? I asked Eli, a desperate need for clarity rising within me. He hesitated, gaze flickering towards my mother. There are things in your family's history that have long been hidden, he began, his voice low. And we need to dig deep to uncover the truth before it consumes you. What truth? Both my mother and I echoed, the weight of his words resonating between us as echoes of fear merged with the faint glimmers of hope. I can't say right now. But this is bigger than I ever imagined, Eli answered, a troubled look etched across his face. We need to figure out where we stand before we confront it. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed in my pocket, the vibration cutting through the tense air. I pulled it out, glancing at the screen, and felt the blood drain from my face. It can't be, I muttered, staring at the name flashing before me, Dad. I looked up at my mother, who mirrored my shock. Our lives had just been thrust back into a realm of uncertainty, and now, a piece of the past was clawing its way to the surface, destined to shatter the fragile peace we had tried so hard to maintain. Would this phone call reveal more secrets, or perhaps lead us further into the depths of a darkness we were barely beginning to understand? As the phone continued to buzz, its incessant vibrations seemed to echo my racing heartbeat. With shaking hands, I clutched the device tighter, a mixture of anxiety and hesitation coursing through me. My father-me thoughts spiraled. The very idea brought back a flood of mixed emotions I'd thought long buried. Memories of the last time I had seen him crept into my mind, each one more vivid than the last, arguments, unanswered questions, and a final heartbreaking goodbye. Are you going to answer it? Ellis' voice broke through the haze of my thoughts, his concern palpable in the air. My mother's expression betrayed an unsettling blend of hope and dread. I nodded, swallowing hard as I hit the green button, bringing the phone to my ear with tight jaws. Hello? I managed to say, my voice barely a whisper. Is this Clara? His voice was warm, yet laced with an undercurrent of tension. Recognition surged through me at the sound. Yes, it's me. The syllables fell from my lips, each one thickening the weight of the moment. Clara, I know this might be a surprise, and I deeply regret that it comes after everything. I need to talk face to face. Why now? The question escaped me incredulously. I can't explain over the phone. But it's important, he pressed, the urgency in his voice causing my heart to race in disquieting ways. Important? I echoed, suddenly aware of my mother's piercing gaze fixed on me, her wide eyes urging me to comprehend the gravity of the situation. What could possibly be important enough that it couldn't wait? I can't say everything over this line. Meet me at the old park by the edge of town. It's critical for both of us. Each word he spoke unraveled a tight knot in my stomach, bringing a conflicting swell of apprehension and a yearning for answers to replace the void he had left. Why should I trust you? My voice quivered, the resentment and betrayal all too fresh. We don't have time to delve into everything right now. Just know that I want to help. He paused, and I could hear the sharp intake of breath on the other end. You're in danger, Clara. There's a lot happening that you don't understand. The line went suddenly silent, or perhaps it was me tuning everything out but the sound of my heart pounding in my ears. It was impossible to ignore his warning, especially given the encounter we had just had at the cafe. The thought of facing whatever was looming before us made bile rise in my throat. Clara? My father's voice returned as if acknowledging my silence. Are you there? Do you understand what I'm saying? Before I could respond, my mother pulled the phone from my hand, gripping it tightly as she brought it close to her ear. Listen, you have 10 seconds to explain why I shouldn't hang up on you, she demanded, her unyielding strength shining through. Clara's life is potentially in danger due to unforeseen circumstances. I need to meet her to discuss a legacy that rightfully belongs to us. I'm trying to protect her, Clara. Please, he urged, his tone softening but an edge of desperation permeating his plea. I watched as my mother's eyes flicked between rage and fear. And what proof do you have of that? You left us, and now you expect us to believe you? I understand you feel betrayed, Clara, and you too, Clara's mom. But answering your questions is more complicated than I can explain here. All I ask is that you give me this chance, he replied, urgency flooding his tone. It's a ploy, my mother scoffed, her voice sharp as a blade. They seek to distract us from the real danger. Mom, I spoke quietly, desperately seeking to cut through her steely facade. I don't know what to believe. But if there's even a chance he knows something about the man in the cafe, I need answers. Before she could respond, I reached for the phone again, the connection between us pulsing with lingering emotions. All right, I said carefully, echoing my father's urgency. Tell me where and when. I'll meet you. His voice softened, almost relieved. Thank you, Clara. Meet me at dusk. I'll make sure you're safe. With that, he hung up, leaving a void in the air that pulsed with unanswered questions. I turned to see my mother's conflicted face, her displeasure and worry carving deeper lines into her brow. What have you done? She whispered, as if something unholy had just been summoned by my agreement. I don't know, but I can't ignore what he said. The vibrant colors of twilight danced through the cafe window, casting shadows that felt alive with apprehension. What's the plan? Are we going? Eli asked, the protective instinct in his voice clear. Before I could answer, A distant shout echoed from outside, drawing our attention toward the street where a commotion had erupted. My blood ran cold as I recognized a figure moving swiftly past the cafe. The man, his face partially obscured by a hood, was darting away from the scene in a desperate hurry. "Wait!" I exclaimed, jumping up, but the moment I pushed my way through the door with Eli close behind, he vanished down an alley, shrouded in the shadows. "Did you see him?" I gasped, breathless from adrenaline. "I did," Eli confirmed, his eyes narrowing thoughtfully. "And I think we need to find out who he is." But as we turned back toward the cafe, my phone buzzed again. The screen lit up with a notification, a text from an unknown number. "Remember, Clara. The past has a way of coming back. Keep your eyes open." The air thickened with an unsettling blend of tension and fear, as the gravity of our situation descended upon us. Surprises lurked in every corner, and the unknown had just taken on a more threatening presence. "Let's get out of here," Eli urged, but I stood rooted to the spot, engulfed in the silent storm of choices looming before me. Would I uncover the truth, or would the weight of the past consume me whole? The old park had been a refuge for me as a child, a place where sun-drenched afternoons spun into golden memories. The sprawling oak trees swayed gently in the evening breeze, their rustling leaves whispering secrets I struggled to remember, but now, under the heavy veil of twilight, they felt ominous, as if they bore witness to my impending fate. I stood at the edge of the path, hesitating. Every step toward this meeting felt like walking toward a decision I couldn't take back. Ella's presence beside me grounded me, but I could see the worry etched in his features, a storm of emotions battling within him. "Clara, are you really okay to do this?" "I think we should." "I have to, Eli," I interrupted, swallowing the lump in my throat. "He says I'm in danger. We can't just walk away." I felt a stray heartbeat race with hope and fear. Was he truly trying to protect me, or was this yet another layer in an already complicated betrayal? As dusk deepened, the shadows shifted, playing tricks on my mind. The park fell quiet, the kind of stillness that strummed a note of anticipation. The setting sun cast blood-orange streaks across the sky, a contrast to the heaviness in my chest. Suddenly, I noticed a figure approaching. It was him. My father. He stepped out from the obscurity of trees, his silhouette highlighted against the fading light. A myriad of emotions surged within me: confusion, anger, hope, a chaotic symphony of feelings. Eli shifted protectively closer, his protective instinct ignited. "Clara," my father greeted, his voice softer yet firm. "Thank you for meeting me. I know this isn't easy for you." He held up his hands, palms facing forward, the display both a peace offering and a sign of surrender. "I don't even know what to say," I replied, struggling to keep my voice steady. "You don't just disappear and then waltz back and claiming to care about what happens to me." "I understand," he began, looking directly into my eyes, searching for understanding. "I didn't have a choice back then, but am here now because I need to warn you. There are people looking for you." "Why now?" The question escaped before I could catch it, a desperate quest for clarity amid the chaos. "Your mother's past is catching up to her, catching up to you." "I was foolish to think it was all behind us," he admitted, his expression darkening. "We didn't choose this life. It chose us. I echoed, the weight of the word heavy between us. "You don't even know me anymore." He flinched as if my words struck a physical blow. "You don't know the truth." I was forced into a world of choices that spiraled out of control. Ella's hand grasped my arm tighter, protective yet urging. "Clara, we don't have to listen to him. We can leave," he murmured, but a part of me wanted to stay, wanting desperately to piece together the puzzle of my father. "Who are these people?" I finally demanded, my heart quickening again. "What do they want?" "They want something from your Mothera family heirloom, something tied to our legacy. It's more valuable than you can imagine, and it could put you at a great risk if you're caught up in this," he explained urgently, each word laced with fear. Legs trembling under the weight of his admission, I leaned against a nearby tree for support. "Why wouldn't Mom tell me?" "Because she was trying to protect you." His voice turned softer, almost desperate. "But the past has a way of creeping back, and especially if it's coming for what it believes is rightfully its own. Then why didn't you just come back?" "Explain?" I felt betrayed all over again, realizing how easily his words had drawn me in doubt. I was trying to keep you safe from all of this. He gestured widely, encompassing the shadows of the park. I thought if I stayed away, they wouldn't find you. But I was wrong. Just as despair started to settle into my bones, a movement caught my eye behind the trees. Someone had been watching us. I squinted into the gathering darkness and caught a glimpse of a familiar hooded figure, the same one I had seen earlier. Clara, we need to go, Eli urged, pulling me back as the figure stepped closer, revealing sharp, striking features against the dim light. My breath caught in my throat as recognition washed over me. No, it's him. The man from the cafe, I breathed, panic flooding my senses. He must have seen the recognition in my eyes, for he grinned, a sinister curve that felt like a dagger. Nice to see you again, Clara, he said, his voice dripped with chilling familiarity. I think we have some unfinished business. Get away from her, Eli demanded, stepping in front of me, prepared to protect me at all costs. That's cute, but I'm afraid you don't understand the stakes here. The man stepped forward, and the night seemed to ignite with danger. With my heart racing and fear threading through every nerve, I realized I stood at a dangerous crossroad chain between the past and an uncertain future, threats closing in on all sides. The truth was unearthing itself in a terrifying crescendo of events I could no longer ignore, and the time for decisions had finally arrived. But as the confrontation unfurled, more questions stole my breath. Was this truly about a legacy, or was something darker waiting in the shadows? The chilling revelation that I was caught in something far more perilous than I ever anticipated loomed like a storm cloud above me, and just as it burst, a scream echoed through the park, my mind racing with the implications of who, or what, was about to change everything once more. The scream shattered the fragile balance of tension in the park, reverberating through my bones like thunder. I turned toward the source, my eyes scanning the darkness like a desperate plea for understanding. It wasn't just the urgency of the moment that seized me, it was the unmistakable terror that accompanied the voice. Clara! Eli! A figure emerged from the shadows, a woman, her hair wild and her face streaked with dirt and fear. For a fleeting moment, hope flickered within me. Was this an ally? But as she stumbled closer, I saw the way her eyes darted around, filled with a mix of recognition and panic. Leah! Eli yelled, recognizing his estranged sister's form. Our eyes met briefly, her desperate gaze pleading for understanding. Please! You have to help me! She gasped, clutching her side and taking a ragged breath. They're coming! I saw them. Who? I asked, unable to comprehend the enormity of her words as the man from the cafe's cruel grin widened. The ones after Mom's heirlooms. I didn't mean to get involved, but they threatened me. They said they're watching you, both of you. Leah's voice was a frantic whisper, but betrayal colored every syllable. I felt Eli stiffen beside me, his jaw clenched. Stay back, Leah, he warned, his protective nature flaring. You're putting us at risk. But before he could process, the hooded man stepped forward effortlessly, his presence dominating. Ah, family reunions, he said mockingly. I see the whole party's here. Claire, thank you for bringing me exactly what I need. What do you want from us? I shouted, a raw tremor in my voice as fury ignited within me. The shadows seemed to grow heavier, suffocating the air around us. What I want is very simple, he replied, eyeing each of us like we were pieces on a chessboard, all too easy to manipulate. I want the heirloom, and considering your family history, you might be the key to finding it. Your mother won't be able to protect you much longer. Before I could muster a response, a flicker of movement caught my eye to the side. I turned in time to see another figure step into the weak halo of the floating streetlights, their face familiar yet frightening. Anton, my childhood friend. Clara, we need to leave. Now! Anton shouted, his voice ragged with urgency and an undercurrent of fear that shook my core. Anton! What are you doing here? I asked, disbelief clouding my judgment. Why was he entangled in this terrifying web? I was looking for you, for your mom, but I've seen them, Clara. The people after you, I overheard, he faltered, eyes darting to the man who stood before me with an unsettling sense of confidence. I realized I had to come called and let you face them alone. The oddity of the moment hit me, friends converging out of desperate need, old bonds pulled together under the weight of danger. But is this what we were now? Only beings tangled up in chaotic circumstances? Ellis' voice broke through my thoughts. We need to get to a safer place, he murmured, gripping my arm tighter. I could feel the warmth of his hand trying to steady my racing heart. Clara, Anton said, urgency ringing in his words. I don't know how much time we have. They're ruthless. I saw one of their men lurking around your house earlier. It's not just about the heirloom anymore. They're making it personal. A shifting whisper of fear clawed at my insides. But before I could think, Leah stepped forward defiantly. They'll help you fight. I've found ways out, I know shortcuts. It's all I can offer, she offered bravely, even as she shimmered with uncertainty. The hidden puzzle seemed to scramble further. Who was to be trusted? Family ties were suddenly flimsy threads in the face of growing danger. Running won't save us. The hooded figure growled, frustration breaking his carefully cultivated facade. I will find what I need, and you will not withstand what's coming. It's futile. Ella's protective instinct flared again, but I felt the weight of the impending darkness close around us. The night was thickening, heavy with unspoken promises and looming threats. Each second ticked by agonizingly, adrenaline coursing through me as the figures closed in, tension palpable. And then it hit me like a lightning bolt. Me mother must have known this would happen. Why hadn't she told me more? With the shadows encroaching, I searched for a way forward, desperate to stay alive yet terrified of the secrets still unraveling and the paths laid before us. But as the confrontation intensified, the final piece of the puzzle slipped into focus, a revelation that sent cold dread curling in my stomach. In that moment of clarity, I understood my own connection to all of this, and the realization that I hadn't just been a pawn in someone else's game. I was at the heart of the storm. And with that realization came a chilling thought. Did I possess the legacy they sought, locked away within me, all while trying to outrun my own past? As I prepared to speak, an unexpected explosion rocked the park, sending a shockwave of heat and force that pushed us all to the ground. Just as disorientation settled over me, I caught a glimpse of Eli, his face twisted in alarm, and then the world closed in like a curtain, leaving me gasping in uncertainty. For a heartbeat, as chaos erupted around us, there lay the stark possibility that I had lost everything again. I awoke to silence, the kind that bears the weight of what has just passed. The air felt thick, almost suffocating, and my senses began to realign with the world around me. Disoriented, I blinked against the dimming light and slowly sat up, the soft rustle of grass beneath me grounding me in reality. But as clarity seeped back, so did the memory's explosion, the chaos, the sudden freezing moment where time itself seemed to gasp for breath. Clara. Eli's voice rang out from across the clearing, filled with shock and urgency, pulling me from the haze. I turned to find him, face pale and eyes wide, panic bleeding into relief as he rushed toward me. His hand reached out, fingers brushing my shoulder, anchoring me back to the present. I'm okay, I whispered, though I wasn't sure if I believed it. Eli helped me stand as the remnants of the chaos settled around us, branches cracked and scattered, dust swirling like ghosts in the fading daylight. The remnants of the confrontation loomed behind us, me father, Leah, and the man who hunted us, all swallowed by the sudden blast. What happened? I had to know, my heart racing at the thought of what that explosion meant, a fierce turn of betrayal. Death? But Eli's face sparked more questions than answers. They tried to take you, he said softly, gripping my hand tighter. But we fought. Leah, it was Leah who she got in the way. Tears welled in Ellis' eyes as he struggled to articulate the horror that had sprawled before us. The remnants of fear spiraled in the air between us like a haunting specter. What do you mean? I felt a pinprick of dread, the knowledge that the violence we had edged into could blossom into something irreversible. Where is she? Clara, it isn't safe to stick around here, Eli urged, his voice low and fervent. We need to go, now. Suddenly, the weight behind his urgency struck me like a delayed wave of reality. Leah's sacrifice. My father's past. This was not just our family's history, this was our future, now caught in a treacherous web of connections, history, and violence beyond our comprehension. But I couldn't leave without searching for them. We can't leave without Leah or my father, I exclaimed, desperation clawing at every part of me. We can't just abandon them to Clara. What if they come back? What if they find us? This isn't an option. Eli's lips pressed together tightly, eyes scanning our surroundings as if expecting the ground to split open again. He was right. Fear lanced through my veins, and the moment felt fragile, teetering on the edge of something frightening. I felt like a bird trapped in a cage, knowing it could fly but afraid of what waited outside. We need to get to safety, Eli continued, urgency underscoring his voice, palpable as the dust floating away. Your father, if we can reach him, maybe. What do you know about my father? The words escaped before I could stop them, crashing against the walls of tension that encased us. More than I've told you, he admitted, his eyes darkened with shadows of the past. But this is not. What do you mean? I pressed again, searching for clarity in the confusion swirling in my head. What did you know? You didn't feel the need to share this while we were fighting for our lives? But the sudden spark of anger faded as I watched Ella's face crumple, the weight of our shared past crashing down upon us. I wanted to protect you, Clara. I was trying to protect you. I didn't know how deep this would go, who we would have to confront. As the silence hung uncomfortably between us, something clicked. You knew my father was involved in something dangerous, didn't you? You knew this whole situation would pull me in. I didn't know, he urged, his voice an imploring whisper. At least not until it became. His jaw clenched as he searched for the words. I believed you'd be safe. I thought you deserved to choose your own path. What if I don't want a path full of secrets? I snapped, fueled by a sudden eruption of anger mingled with fear. What if I want to know all of it? The truth about my past, about my family. You owe me that, Eli. In that moment, the unshackling of my previous attachment to the life I had grown up with unspooled inside me, a cascade of broken memories, panic, longing, and an undeniable thirst for the truth, no matter how painful. Suddenly, from a distance, we both caught sight of movement in the trees. A figure emerged, cloaked in shadows that danced with recognition. Stay back, Eli warned, positioning himself protectively in front of me again, defiance radiating from his trembling form. But as I squinted into the dimming light, the familiar blanket of feelings wrapped around me. Dad? The words slipped from my mouth, filled with an amalgam of surprise and trepidation as my father stepped into the fading light, his face drawn and illuminated by soul-deep urgency. Clara, I came as soon as I could, he exclaimed, his voice trembling, like he was teetering on the precipice of vulnerability. We're running out of time. Where's Leah? I demanded as realization dawned, a wave of worry crashing over me. Where is she? My father hesitated, pain glazing over his features. She didn't make it. Not in the way we wanted. The truth crashed over me like icy waves, twisting my insides until I gasped. What are you talking about? My breath faltered as the weight of his words fell heavy on my heart. We were outnumbered. She fought, but it was chaos. He raked his trembling fingers through his hair, looking older than I remembered. I'm so sorry, Clara. At that instant, bitterness crystallized inside me, ready to shatter. She's gone? And you're telling me to run? I spat, fury igniting in my chest as despair coiled around my throat. How can we leave her behind? There's no time. My father implored, desperation coloring his voice. We need to find safety and regroup. You have to trust me, Clara. The plea in his tone reached me, cutting through the tumult of emotions as I stood on a precipice. A choice loomed larger than the storm gathering around us. Trust you? That's what you keep asking of me? After everything? It was hard to swallow the truth, but I gripped my father's gaze, demanding answers through the fury that coursed through me. What do you know? What are you hiding? His eyes held a storm of regret, a tether to the past that tied us together as well as apart. The heirloom is more than just a piece of jewelry or a trinket, he said, voice low. It symbolizes a legacy. It's tied to a network of power that can uproot everything we've built. Built? I challenged. You mean everything you hid? He let out a shuddered breath as shadows danced behind him. The energy in the air danced like an electric current as reality threatened to crash in. The life we sought to protect sometimes hides the very darkness we feared. I didn't want you to get pulled in. His voice thickened as he looked away. But now, it's too late. At that moment, the air shifted again, as if the very trees whispered secrets, and I felt unwittingly drawn toward the truth. This has to do with the man from the cafe. Yes, he replied, the weight of acknowledgement clear. But we need to leave now before he realizes we're here. You think running will save us? I wasn't done digging. Something deeper called to me, revealing the fractured pieces of a story I wanted to understand. It won't change what we're running from. Eli took half a step forward, focusing on my father. If it's about finding the heirloom, we can't leave it behind. We have to go and take it, but only if we unite. If you truly want to protect Clara, we face it together. A moment of tremulous silence trailed through us, some unspoken truth hovering just out of reach. But something clicked softly among us, a fragile unity forged through turmoil, tangled together by the weight of our histories, and emboldened by the pain of shared loss, fear, and uncertainty. Together, I agreed finally, feeling the power behind the word ripple through me as clarity crystallized into a fierce resolve. Wherever the shadows take us, we face this together. But first, tell me everything. The gathered dusk deepened, ceding space to a new beginning, eerily quiet yet reverberating with the pulse of anticipation, the unearthing of buried secrets. Spiraling toward an inevitable confrontation. My father nodded, agreement issuing forth as a tentative light flickered in his eyes. We stepped into the darkness, a bridge forged through the fiercest of storms, while unrest swirled around us. Together, we would uncover our legacy, reclaim our place, and unravel the truth that had entangled Yuzil, the while knowing the coming storm could either break us or bind us more fiercely than before. As we turned to face the unknown, a sense of fierce hope intertwined with the remnants of despair echoing through the trees. And somewhere deep within the throes of uncertainty, our lives would be reshaped forever, connections remade and hearts realigned, forcing us to confront an undeniable truth. The past doesn't define us. It's what we do with it that ultimately sets the course of our future. With harmonious resolve, I stepped forward, determined to seize the light amidst the shadows. A reminder that even from wreckage blossoms something beautiful, and only by standing united could we unearth what was rightfully ours. And somewhere, through the chaos and darkness awaiting, the journey toward redemption awaited us, beckoning us toward a future yet unwritten. Because in the act of embracing everything we feared, we could finally begin to stitch together the tattered fragments of a legacy shattered by secrets. Perhaps this was not the end, nor a new beginning, but merely the first step toward reclamation of that which truly defines us: family, love, and a fierce bond forged within the fires of truth.